Good evening. It's Saturday. I'm just getting in, and I said before I hit the bed, let me do a quick live on life and relationships, a quick chat. Today I had two things go on for me that gave me food for thought based on what I'm sharing tonight. First was watching a bird let its baby birds, teaching them how to fly, taking them in the air and dropping them on, just tossing them up and letting them go. I kind of watched that. And then I had a male client who actually pushed it further with a conversation in a coaching session today. And so I'm sharing based on that this evening on how do you become independent of everything that you've been taught? How do you learn to stop depending on other people as your source? Because sometimes we don't realize that we've been given life to live. And as long as you don't realize that you've been given life to live, we've grown in a society where dependency is taught than independence being taught. And that's part of conditioning you to hold on to the limited beliefs. Today I had a male client, like I said, in a coaching session say to me, everything my grandfather taught me, everything my mother taught me, everything my father taught me. And I said, stop for a second. I hear you say everything you've been taught. What are you teaching yourself about life and about relationships? Because what you've been taught is based on what other people know, not what you really know. And I'm trying this out there because I see this very often. And as a coach, for me, it's helping you really get the right mindset. Everything you've been taught is based on what somebody knows, not what you know on your own. Let me say that again. Everything you've been taught. I'm not going to be able to type because my laptop's on my bed and my bed's going to shake if I move to type something. So I'm not going to type. You can watch the replay to catch whatever I said that you may not have caught in the first place. Everything that you've been taught is based on the teacher who's teaching you, the knowledge, the limited beliefs, the mindset of whoever is teaching you. Like I said, thanks for joining. Like I said, the client said to me, everything my grandfather taught me, everything my mother taught me, everything my father taught me. And I said, stop for a second. What have you taught yourself? Because everything that we've been taught is based on a limited belief of somebody else. And as long as you don't explore life on your own, as long as you don't build on yourself by teaching yourself things that empower you, your life will be based on what has trickled down to you, not what you have discovered on your own. And if you look at the society today, everything that you've been taught is what limits you. I've shared my quote with you. The level of your ignorance is based on what you know and your ego. And what you know is only what you've been taught and conditioned with. And outside of what you've been taught and conditioned with, if you're not learning anything new, you're never going to discover that there's life beyond what you've been taught. Same thing happens with relationship. You watch and mimic relationships going on around you, and that's all you know about relationships. But if you don't explore on your own, what you find out is you're repeating cycles based on what the grandfather thought, what the mother thought, what the father taught, but you're not really discovering on your own. And when I coach couples, is the same thing I see. The guy may say, well, my father did it this way. And I always tell my clients, listen, your father doing it that way is because that's the only thing your father knew. Your mother doing it this way is because that's the only thing your mother knew. What are you learning outside of what you've been conditioned with? Because conditioning is limiting your belief. Conditioning is limiting you to being able to get outside of that zone of dependency. You're never going to be independent if you don't learn things on your own. And part of that was me watching, again, I learn every day. I even learn from my teenage son. Me watching the bird today drop the baby bird trying to teach the baby bird to fly, to become independent, so that that baby bird can begin to soar on his or its own and not come back to depend on the parent. And that's just how life is. You can't be dependent forever on people. You have to teach yourself to become independent by learning new skills and new things in life on your own every single day. What are you learning and teaching yourself about life? What are you learning and teaching yourself about relationships? Everything that you go through in a relationship teaches you something about yourself that you haven't known yet. And as long as you're not learning whatever it is you're supposed to learn about yourself when the relationship ends, you will never find out how powerful and empowered you are. Let me say that again. As long as you are not learning when a relationship ends, you will not find out how powerful and empowered you are. Powerful because you've got strength from within. Empowered by the knowledge that you gained from the relationship that ended. But if you keep running from one into another one, what you're discovering is you're looking to be reliant on somebody else, but you haven't gained your own strength and your own voice. We've been taught and conditioned to accept being caged than accepting our own freedom. Freedom is what you were born with. Love is what you were born with. But if you don't teach yourself how to love you, if you don't teach yourself how to embrace you, if you don't teach yourself how to find your own voice, you would allow yourself to drown in other people's voices. What are you teaching yourself about you that's helping you find your voice in this moment? You may be going through life issues, you may be going through relationship issues, but your spirit was never born to be caged by anybody. And so what you find out is when you try to look for somebody to rescue you, then you're rescuing yourself. You're saying, I'm giving my power away to someone to hurt me. And that's why we get hurt most of the time. It's you not recognizing your power and saying, I'm yet to find myself. I'm yet to discover my power. I'm yet to discover my greatness. But based on what I've been taught, I'm going to rely on somebody else to do stuff for me. Entitlement is what we've been conditioned to believe in and to hold on to rather than find our own voice. I found my voice 7 years ago, and I tell you, I'm still finding my voice in some areas because I go through life. Kelly says, I never thought about it that way. That's the way it is. What you've been taught, what you've watched your parents live out, is what you believe relationship is about. But relationship is different for every single person. Whether your mother went through it, you're not supposed to repeat the patterns. You're supposed to learn what you're not going to embrace in their life. You're supposed to learn things that you're not supposed to relieve in your life. But most of the time, watching makes you reenact the whole story. I spoke with a young woman not too long ago who grew up in a broken home, and she saw her mother go out to losing up and throw herself at other people because the father wasn't present. And she thought that that was what it meant to put yourself out there to find love. And I said, no, that was her depending on other people to come to her rescue and help her find her voice and her greatness. When I went through 7 years ago, and I continue to share this in my books and in coaching and in speaking and on this platform, I said to myself at one point, my spirit felt caged. It still happened to me this past Monday again. My spirit felt caged. And what you have to recognize is the Spirit of God in you can never be caged. And so when you choose to stay silent, you're saying, I'm allowing myself to drown my voice and accept whatever is thrown at me. 7 years ago, I decided I didn't want to be caged anymore because I knew something was bigger than me that I did not really know what it was. And I'm still finding out. Every single day I find out, even though getting there physically, health-wise, I still find out every single day that no one can contain my spirit. And I wrote that affirmation to myself 7 years ago when I found myself. I said, no one can contain my spirit, because when you were born, you were giving freedom. And because you were giving freedom, what we tend to do as babies, if you watch babies don't like to be caged. If a baby starts to walk, they find that their path to moving around. The baby says, nope, you put that gate up, I'm going to climb over it because you can't contain my spirit. But what happens when we become teenagers? We start to look and mirror what we see because of lack of confidence sometimes, or lack of thinking that you will not be accepted by the people you're surrounded with. But it is first of all important to accept yourself, because if you don't accept yourself, other people can accept you. And at the point where you're discovering yourself, again, if you want to learn more, you can get my book, Being Single. I've documented the exploration stage of life. What happens in the exploration stage of life at the teenage years is that you're trying to find who you are, but you're trying to make sure that you may not be confident enough yet. And what you do in that point is mirror the people around you. You mirror at home, you mirror outside, you want to be in the clique for acceptance, but you haven't really accepted yourself the way you are. And so you begin to lose yourself in the process of trying to feed into other people's box of friendship, box of relationship, box of family, box of whatever it is, where you find yourself. And the boxes that are created continue to hold you captive of getting an awareness of who you are. And when you remain in that cage, like I said, look at the bird, teaching the baby to fly and not become dependent. When you remain in that cage, you will never find your wings. I think that was why I had to watch the bird today. You will never find your wings, and because you're not finding your wings, you don't know you can fly. And so you go from one relationship, it may even be friendship, you go from one and you think, this person is not really accepting me, but you're not really looking at yourself and saying, what am I discovering about my life, and how am I going to set limits on the people that I'm bringing into my space that may make me lose myself than find myself? Because if you can't find your own voice, you will be dependent on what other people have conditioned you to believe. The client said to me, he said, my father taught me that relationships are this way, and my mother taught me, and I watched my grandfather, and I said, stop right there. What have you taught yourself about relationships outside of what you've been taught? And I shared my quote with him again. The level of your ignorance is based on what you know and your ego. And your ego says to you in that moment, I only have to focus on what I've been taught, because of the fear of the unknown, fear of discovering yourself, fear of finding out things that you can step into that you may not even have fathomed that you can do. For those of you who may be watching who don't know, I'm an introvert to the core. But when I found my voice, I said, God, you're going to use me to speak. I don't like speaking to anybody. I like being in my own space. I like enjoying myself. I grew up as a child with headphones on and listening to my music. I could be in my room and nobody knew I was at home. But when I started to find myself, the desire to help other people do the same came on me. And that's something I never thought I would do. To be in a public eye, I hate it. But when you're choosing to be a vessel to do it, you can't hold back. And so every time I find myself going through some storm, I ask God to empower me so that I can share things. And today I'm going through some storms right now. And this morning I said, whatever it is, show me how. Rosalind, hi, I see you. Show me how I can empower someone. And I watched the mama bird take a baby bird and say, become independent. Here, learn to fly so you can go figure yourself out and not depend on me. And I started to relate it to life and relationships. We become so dependent on people that we don't find our own voices. Look, take a relationship, for example. You say, well, my partner is going to always be there. But knock on the wood. Death happens. You find yourself being alone again. How do you get back up and figure things out? You have children and you become empty nesters. How do you get back up and figure things out because there's no dependency again? Your relationship ends, marriage ends, and you find yourself back alone. How you find your voice in that moment and recognize that you were born to be great, irrespective of what you go through. Those little obstacles teach you not to become so dependent, but to find your own voice and to find yourself in the moment. And once you don't take control of finding your voice and finding yourself, you're going to rely again on the strength of other people. I also had a coaching client today who said, oh, my single friend, she's married. My single friend gave me an advice. And I said, what does your single friend know about marriage? And she said, I never thought about it like that. I said, no. That's why I always say advice is bad. She was going through and she had a single friend feed her someone who didn't know about marriage, feed her soul. And I said, now that you've been fed, what has that taught you about yourself? She said, not to look at people who are not married and take whatever they say as something I'm taking to heart. I said, has she experienced marriage to be able to give you advice? No. Has she been in your shoes, sleeping in the same house and on the same bed with your spouse as you have been? No. Again, it's the conditioning. And until you decondition yourself and realize no two relationships are the same. They may have similar experiences, but it's unique to you and your spouse. And she had to go with that and begin to see that everything she was going through was teaching her to become strong. Everything you go through in life, whether relationship, teaches you to learn to fly your wings. Like the mama bird dropping the baby bird. It's you going through life and going through the waves. And the wind is blowing against you. But you don't stop. As a bird, look at the bird. They go through it. They keep flying through the wind. Even if they have to maneuver through, left, right, and center, to figure it out. That's how you and I need to figure out life. Not people's advice. That's what I love about coaching, because it helps you begin to find your voice through thought-provoking questioning that helps you awaken yourself. So in this moment of me being here and sharing this with you, whatever it is you're facing, ask yourself the question, what is this teaching me about myself and finding my voice? Have you been drowning in other people's voices and you can't figure out your own voice? Sometimes we do it on the job. I'm talking from experience now. Sometimes you do it on the job. Somebody sees your greatness. They can recognize your greatness by just knowing your strength. But because they know you're going to outshine them, they suppress your voice. And you become caged. And your freedom is limited because, again, you're allowing other people to put you under the pedestal than you saying, I was born to fly. Take a relationship, a broken relationship. You go back to beg someone who says, I no longer need you in my life. And you're pleading. And women do this a lot. You say, I'm sorry. Just whatever it is, forgive me. And the guy says, no, I'm done. But you keep drowning in a place where you're no longer accepted. And it's teaching you either that partner doesn't know what they need, or that you are in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong person who cannot grow you. Someone who will deplete you. Because the one who God created for you will never turn you back, will never turn their back on you or turn you down or deplete you. And so you have to find your voice in that moment and say, what is it about me that is making me settle and beg for love when I am indeed loved, but I may not love myself enough to realize that? And so until you come to the point where you realize, I need to love myself so that I can know who deserves to be in my space and not settle, you will lose your voice to someone who doesn't deserve to have your voice. It's all about you finding your greatness, no matter what you go through in life. The storms will come, but the storms don't last forever. Whatever the storm is that you're facing, you are more powerful than that. You've been empowered to find your power within when you're going through the storm. Let me say that again so you can understand it. You've been empowered to awaken your power within, to find your strength when you're going through the storm. Because the storm was never meant to drown you. It was meant to elevate you. It's like you going into a swimming pool and saying, I want to swim. You go down, but you come back up. The water does not soak you in. You have the power to flap your arms and swim against it to get to the end of the pool and get out of the pool. But if you allow the water to drown you, then you will succumb and give your power away without recognizing it. The same thing we do in relationships is giving your power to someone who's not worth having your power. It's saying, I am going to plead to stay here with you if you're abusing me, but you weren't created to be abused. You were created to be loved. It's you saying, I don't see my worth yet, so I am going to stay in here and settle. Like the guy I coached today who said, everything I've been taught. Him saying, I'm going to limit myself based on how other people are living their lives and what they know than what I know about myself. You have to find your voice and you have to find your strength and you have to find your power without allowing people to drown you. Every time you go through a storm, it's meant to make you become stronger, wiser, better, more knowledgeable. You gain wisdom. And every disappointment teaches you something about yourself that you're yet to know. Why did you get disappointed? You were relying on other people's strength than finding your own strength. That's why we come alone into the world. Single person in a womb. Who teaches, and this just came to me now, my thought process. God depositing again. Like I said, we came into the world alone, single in the womb. How did you learn as a baby to swim your way through the womb? To know when to move, to know when to shift when you're uncomfortable. But as you grow older and you begin to allow people to drown your voice, you forget to find your way to swim out of whatever circle it is. Have you watched the baby push out through birth? I'm not trying to be gross, but I'm trying to make you think outside the box. Have you watched the baby push through when it's time to come out? Nobody pushes that baby out. That baby knows, I have to push myself to the limit to be able to be birthed into my greatness. If that baby decides, I'm going to hold in here, I'm not going to come out, either it's going to die or either C-section will happen. But the baby chooses, I'm going to push. That's the way you're supposed to push through life. Just remember that analogy and think thoroughly. That baby comes in Nobody teaches it how to latch on to get breast milk. That baby learned how to latch. And you have to learn to latch when you're going through the storm. Latch onto God, no, not man, because man will disappoint you. I tell you what, man will disappoint you anytime. But God still gives you strength and life every single day that you go through. He looks at you. He may not be present, but that love of life and breath for you to keep going is evidence that He hasn't given up on you through whatever it is you're going through, and you can't give up on yourself. And you have to take that thought and say to yourself, who's the only one who's there when no one sees me crying? The one who made you, who's empowered you to find your own power from within so that you can pull through whatever brokenness there is, whatever difficulty there is you're facing. Not to rely on what you've been taught, but to rely on the strength that He's granting you that allows you to really connect with yourself and find your power from within, finding your own voice and realizing you need to be independent to be able to figure out and navigate through your storm and through your journey and through life and through relationships. But what we tend to do is mirror and reenact. And if you're reenacting the parents, you're reenacting the neighbors, you're reenacting the friends, you're reenacting everybody you see, you will never find your own true greatness. You were born great. The relationship that was meant for you would happen when you stop looking at the relationship of others and really figuring out the relationship with your Creator first as the first level of relationship. I've shared the video. You can look for it on my page. The first level of relationship is that which you have with God. The second is that which you have with yourself. And so if you leave yourself out of the picture and you're connecting to every other relationship that's breaking you, it's them teaching you how to find your own voice and find your greatness, because you're depending on other people than really figuring out yourself. Your freedom, your ability to find you, your ability to know and understand yourself. And most people think that self-love is about taking good care of the external but not feeding the internal. As long as you're not feeding your soul to become enlightened and empowered to find your voice, you will drown and live in other people's underneath other people's voices of yourself. And so it's teaching yourself to forget about what you've been taught, because what you've been taught is based on what the people that taught you know about themselves or what they have learned, not what you are learning. And the only way you can learn is to teach yourself those things as you go through life. As you go through relationships that end, what is it about me that I'm finding out? What is it about me that I need to know? What is it about me that I don't know yet that may be the source of my strength that I'm yet to connect with? 7 years ago, I found myself. And I found that finding myself and finding my voice allows me to set boundaries. And the greatest thing I've learned about myself is learning to say no when I need to say yes to myself. Learning to say no to other people when I need to say yes to myself. And this past week, I had to say yes to myself on something, and I did not even know I was going to do it because I was trying to absorb. But my quote, "No one can contain my spirit," for the whole week haunted me. And I had to laugh. Hey, Shay, I see you from New York. How are you? How's the baby? So I was drowning, and I said to myself the whole day, no one can contain my spirit. No one can contain my spirit. No one can contain my spirit. But yet I was drowning. I was drowning and allowing someone who I did not need to tell me how to silence my voice, to take control. But at the end of the day, I said, I can't take this anymore because you can't contain my spirit. Would it cost me what I did? Absolutely, but you know what? It would only cost me on the dollar bill, but it will not cost me my peace. And your peace is greater than the dollar bill. Your peace is greater than a relationship where someone does not respect you. Your peace and happiness is greater than being in an abusive place where you don't belong. Your peace is part of your empowerment to find your power from within, to say no to anything that no longer serves you. Either it be a relationship or a life issue or a friendship or whatever it is. Your peace is way much important than you settling for less than you truly deserve. It's about you finding your voice than allowing you to drown in whatever it is that you've been taught. We've been taught to remain silent in places where we need to find our own voices. We've been taught that when we keep silent sometimes it's for our own good. But when you stay silent in the midst of you drowning and you know the truth that will set you free, you're choosing to become caged than to become free. And you're going to be dependent on those people that are holding you captive of your freedom, that are holding your mind captive of being able to process your thoughts and obtain clarity, because in stillness lies clarity. What you do is take home chaos, and it convolutes your mindset, and you think thoroughly through the night. Hey, Ernzo, I see you. Thanks for joining. How have you been? It's been a while. And what happens is you allow yourself to succumb to pressure that you do not need. Because now somebody is dominating and trying to hold your voice captive, either in a relationship or a life. It could be workplace, it could be anywhere. What you discover is you go home and you sleep, but you're worried. Worry has no place but to hold you in a place of fear and illusion. And as long as you're allowing other people to have your voice, then you'll find your voice and find yourself. What you do is live in bondage than live in freedom that you were born with. Your power from within that empowers you to become free no longer exists. That's why I'm not trying to disrespect, but I've been in an abusive relationship myself. That's why people who go through abusive relationship stay, because they are so dependent and can't seem to find their voices in the midst of the storm. But the storm is meant to free you than hold you captive. Abuse is sometimes self-inflicted. And I'm not saying this to humiliate anyone. Again, I've been through abusive relationships, so I know what it means to be in one. It's you finding yourself succumbing to someone else and giving your power away and saying, take my voice from me. My voice was given to me, but I choose choices to stay here and be consumed and be held captive than me finding my way to fly. Because when you're in a healthy relationship, you're going to find your voice and you're going to fly. And your partner is going to help you to gain your strength and to also help you grow. But when you're not in a healthy relationship, you lose your voice. And when you lose your voice, it becomes hard to find yourself and to flap your wings and say, we're in this as one. We're not operating as two different people, but we're in this as one. And the oneness allows you to really be who you were created to be, not allow somebody to tame your spirit and hold you bound. Again, everything we've been taught is based on what other people know and how they live their lives, not necessarily how you need to live your life. And so it's about you finding your freedom and asking yourself, what is life teaching me about me than me drowning in somebody else's voice. You were born free. You were born with love. You were born empowered to find your power from within and unleash your greatness while living than existing. But if you don't find it, no one can find it for you. Again, I've documented some of this in all my books. You can get them on my page on my website, on Amazon. Most of the ones about finding your voice start with relationship ones, start with love, sex, lies, and reality, because you get nuggets about why you're settling. Finding yourself right from teenage years to adulthood and why you're succumbing to other things is in being single. And Beyond the Pain helps you just break free from what's breaking you. And I also coach. I coach about this. I speak about this. I'm passionate about helping other people gain the knowledge and wisdom so that you can find your voice and find yourself. We're in times where people are becoming dependent than really getting the independence that you were born with. And until you find yourself, what you're doing is you're going to become a slave to somebody else when you were born to be free. Freedom lies from within. That's why I wrote the quote, "No one can contain my spirit. I was born in love, and I was born with love, and I was born to be free." As the mama bird takes the baby bird and tosses it into the air to find its wings, I pray that you find your wings, and you find your voice, and you find how empowered you are from within to find the power to connect with your greatness and to soar. No one can contain your spirit except you choose choices to allow them. We are what we accept and what we allow. So tonight I just wanted to share that. If you have any questions, I'll be more than willing to answer your questions and help you move forward in life and in your relationship if there's anything you're facing that you need help with. If you don't feel comfortable posting on my page, you can join my group. I believe my group shows on my page. My group is Purposeful Relationships. I'll check in the group later on to see if anybody has questions beneath this video. And you can also connect with me via email. Email coaching@KemiSugarLed.com. Again, coaching, my first name, my last name.com. And you can visit my website for articles on life and relationships and videos that I share as well. Again, it's about you finding yourself. The key to life is you finding yourself and not allowing anyone to take charge of your life and hold you bound in a place where you don't belong. Because when you allow people to hold you bound, you're saying, I choose to give the power that I was born with away so that other people can hold me captive. And I can live my life based on what they think, not what I was created to do. Purpose, my life, my freedom, my ability to love, irrespective of how people treat, my ability to set boundaries and not be held captive. You have the power from within to unleash your greatness. And your greatness can only be found when you learn to find your voice, to find out what life teaches, irrespective of what you're going through. And to know that when you do, worry, illusions, fear will have no place to stay, but to leave. You will have the power to open the door. Shay says, Ward, be with someone who helps you to be great. Yeah, Shay, I tell singles, if you don't find a partner who will help you to be great, you will never be great. Because that's what purpose is. You finding yourself and growing and finding a partner who's going to help you grow and you're helping them grow. Most of the time we've been taught that relationships, you just brought something that's making me stay on. What you find out is most people think that relationship is only about what I can get and how I can manipulate you. That's what most relationships in today's world is. I'm not one of those people who would tell you things are not happening. Things are happening. People are looking to be matchmaker. I get inbox messages every day, singles saying, help me find a partner. I'm like, no, have you found yourself before finding a partner? Because finding a partner is not going to solve the problem that you're running from or running away from. And until you find out that when you know who you are, the best relationship comes to you, because you know you don't need to settle. You don't need to run on emotions. You don't need to plead. You don't need to beg. You don't need to chase. Because love always connects. You don't have to force it. Love always connects. And the power to connect with that greatness lies with you finding your own power and your own voice, so that when you meet the partner, they're not going to suppress your greatness. When you meet a partner who's suppressing your greatness, it means that you haven't found your own voice. There are partners that the funny thing is, when I get clients who say, my partner doesn't want me to do this because he believes I need to stay home with the children. And I say, God did not give you that gift that you know is going to make you great. Yes, you have the responsibility to take care of the children, but also there's a greatness to whatever vision you have to become manifested. It's you speaking life to yourself, but if your partner can't speak life to you, then you may be with the wrong person. And you can't keep running from one person to another person without really finding your greatness. They can't help you find it. It's something that you find yourself. It's something that you give to yourself as the greatest gift of life, to find your own voice and find you and find your greatness. And greatness doesn't always have to be with material things. Your greatness is you being able to live your life to the fullest, the way God deemed it. People think that greatness has to do... I've had people inbox me, oh, how did you become... I said, listen, I'm a normal, regular human being. I don't see anything outside of... I don't put on a fad. I don't have it all together. Whoever says they have it all together is lying to you. Everybody is trying to figure it out. Even the top public figures are trying to figure it out. That's why every day they try to convince you to follow. But you have to find your own greatness, because we were all born great. And if you don't find your greatness, a partner who hasn't found his or her own greatness can help you find it. It's you finding your greatness and saying, you know what? I found my voice. I found myself. So for me, I'm going to connect to someone who sees my greatness and can help me become great while I help them become great. It's a mutual energy, synergy. It's like interlocking. And you say, Shay said, it's in the song, The Greatest Love by Whitney Houston. Yeah, the greatest love is what you give to yourself before you can give it to somebody else. If you don't have the love for yourself, you can't give love to somebody else. If you don't love yourself enough, you'll never be happy, and you'll never find someone to love you as you will love yourself. And the truth is, when you even get in a relationship, no one can truly love you like you would. You may say, my partner doesn't love me today, my partner doesn't love me tomorrow. But the truth is, when you love yourself enough, you realize it's not the presence of the partner that matters. How do I put this? Look at love from a different perspective. This morning I was having a conversation with God in my shower, which is where I get my writing. I was trying to figure out how to finish my memoir. It's already finished, but I'm trying to recompile it. And I said, God, sometimes people don't really understand the concept of love. Every day you wake up, even though you don't see God's presence, the love is there. The gift of life is the love. The breath of life is the love that He's showing you, that you still have the greatness and you still have the power to become great. And your yesterday doesn't matter to Him, because He's erased it in His book and He's waking you up to today. But when you connect to people on a love note, in a relationship, you always look for the presence. Oh, he's not always there. She's not always here when I need them. But love doesn't always have to be present. It's here that you know. Action. How are they showing up when you need them? But when you love yourself enough, you have to realize you don't have to be together all the time. You don't have to... You become independent. Literally, that's what I'm trying to say. In a relationship, a healthy relationship, You become so independent of your partner that when they're not present, you can function. And when you can function without them, the love is still there, but you're not dependent on them. Again, this is coming back to the dependency. When you're dependent, you're saying, I don't have the power to find my voice or find my strength or find myself. And so you become dependent. Again, knock on the wood. If a partner dies, and I'm not saying this, I've had people lose partners lately. And what happens if a partner dies? How do you go on if you don't find your strength first? And if you're dependent? If a divorce happens and you're completely broken and torn, how do you find your voice if you don't find you and know that the power to rise up and move on would happen? 7 years ago when I went through my divorce, it's going to be 7 years in 7 days that I got divorced. I didn't know what to do at first. I was like, where do I start? I cried. And I said to myself, what if I didn't even have anybody? How would I find my voice? And I went through that journey with God and challenging God and 6 to 8 months fighting with God and saying, you don't exist. I was born and raised in the church. I was like, you don't exist. Because if you exist, you will make me be here. And he reminded me of something I said. Sometimes what you pray for, when it happens, you don't wish for it to happen. I had said prior to that, I said, if there's anything in my life that's taking me away from you, God, take it away from me. And so when my marriage ended, I didn't realize that I was moving and I had shifted completely from my relationship with God, which is the most important relationship in life. I had compromised myself to the point where I had lost my own voice. And I had to say to myself, my voice was given to me for a reason and a purpose, which is part of what I'm doing now. And what happened to me was I started to wrestle with God. And through that, I was actually in a women's group. I was co-leading a women's group. And none of them knew what I was going through, because I was drowning and succumbing. And when I found my voice, it was through one of them who helped me out. And that was her purpose in my life. I haven't been in touch with her since 7 years ago. Some of them took me back and forth the hospital to get myself together. They were taking me in for checkups because I couldn't walk properly anymore. And when I found my voice again, I said to myself, no one can contain my spirit. No one. Because I asked God to give me a second chance if it was truly God. I said, give me a second chance and let me find my voice and let me live my life in your will, not my own will. And I've had to say no to a lot of things I want to do in life. Because again, I made that commitment that if he gave me life again, I was not going to lose my voice again. I was going to remain the me that he made me find, and I was going to remain strong and fighting to help others find their voice and help others build healthy relationships. And what I've noticed in my journey up till today is when I go through, I get people that need to hear the things that he's birthing in me. I did 2 weeks ago. I work in real estate as well. For those of you who don't know, I'm a realtor as well. So I had a photo shoot somewhere. And this woman came and said, hey, I'm going through life. I just shared a statement. And she said, that's exactly what I'm going through. And I began to really speak to her. And what she was focusing on what she was also taught about relationships. So our relationship ended. But it was based on what she was taught, not what she taught herself. Again, I'm coming back to what I started with. What she was taught, not what she taught herself. And I said, what are you teaching yourself through this process? And what have you discovered about yourself through the process? And she said, what I discovered was I wanted to run away from the problems that my parents had. And I wanted to run into a man's arms to rescue me. But I was actually running away from myself. We had a complimentary coaching session while she was taking pictures of me. And I said, what we don't realize is when you're running away from yourself, you're going to run into making poor choices. You're going to lose your voice and find your voice. And you're going to drown in other people's sorrows than in your own reality. And the power from within comes with you stopping at the point where you keep running and running into other people who escalate the problems that bring you solution. Is you coming to a halt and saying, I'm going to stop running away from myself. I'm going to stop running away from what I think is problems, because they're not, those things aren't problems. Those things are an awareness that you need to break the cycle of what you've been taught and conditioned with that's limiting you and creating repeated patterns. And you saying, now I need to put an end to this and find my voice. I tell you what, every time I count down to number of years that I found my voice, I don't even believe I'm where I am now. I don't believe sometimes when I say no. I still come back and I cringe. Did I really say that? Do I need to go back? But then I realize it's me breaking the cycle. Because when I give my power away to something that cannot serve me, I give my power away to something that will contain my spirit, I'm saying, I don't value me. I don't love me enough. I don't respect myself enough. And I'm going to settle than learn to wait for what I truly deserve. And so again, the question to yourself is, when you go through and you have to say no to something, ask yourself the question, am I learning to say yes to my voice, to find my voice and find my power from being empowered by me gaining a knowledge of what I will tolerate and what I will not tolerate, what I will accept and what I will not accept, what I will set boundaries on or what I will not set boundaries on, or what I allow to come into my space, drain my energy, contaminate my spirit, and contain my spirit, than allowing me to find my voice and my greatness. I'm going to stop there. Because if I go on, I'm not going to stop. And I have to do laundry. I just wanted to share that tonight. Again, it's about you not losing yourself. Think about the mama bird taking the baby bird and saying, I don't want you to be dependent on me. We've been conditioned to be dependent. And so what we do is we run to find solutions in other people than finding our own voice and greatness. And it's about you coming to that self-awareness that you are empowered to find the power within, to find your voice, and not to lose your voice in the moment. You have the power to be great. You have the power to be bold. You have the power to do the impossible. Never let anyone drown your spirit. Never let anyone contain you. Find your voice. Unleash your power from within. And realize you've been empowered with so much that you know you are good enough to hold on to being valuable to yourself. You are good enough to hold on to your own voice than lose it and let somebody drown you. You are good enough to live the best life that was given to you, and the freedom that was given to you, and the love that you were born with, you are good enough to figure out how to get out than to get in and succumb to anything that no longer serves you. You have the power to find your voice and your greatness. Again, feel free to post a question. If you have questions, post your questions. If you don't want to share, inbox me. I'll be happy to help you out. Or you can email me, coaching@kemshigonle.com. You can get the books. They will help you. It's about you finding your voice. It's about you really getting out of your pain and into purposeful and healthy living. It's not healthy when you drown in other people's voices and you can't find your voice. It's not healthy when you don't know you, but you allow other people to define who you are. It's not healthy when you give yourself away. Hey, Doctor, I see my cousin from Atlanta. When you give yourself away, but you don't find yourself. Stop losing yourself. Start finding yourself. Start living the best life. Healthy, purposeful relationship with yourself so that you can attract healthy. I've shared several times, the healthier you become, the healthier you attract. The healthier you become, the healthier you learn to set boundaries. Your peace is very important to you than anything else. Your happiness is important to you than anything else, but no one can make you happy if you haven't found your own happiness or your own voice. No one can make you happy if you haven't loved yourself enough to define what love is for anyone who's coming into your space, to recognize you as love yourself so that they can share the love based on what you can share with them. And they can help you grow while you can help them grow. You both can share the greatness that you were born with. Love does not deplete, it elevates. Love will never drown your voice, but help you find your voice. And you have to determine, is it worth finding my voice than losing my voice? Your voice is your powerhouse. And it's not your voice for speaking alone. Your inner voice is your powerhouse that makes you realize you've been empowered to find your power from within and live to the fullest. I hope you all have an amazing Sunday tomorrow. For those of you who may be in Sunday already, for those of you going into Sunday in the U.S., remember, you're losing 1 hour of sleep, I believe. So get up in time. Don't oversleep it. You're going to lose 1 hour of sleep. I don't like that. I like to gain all my hours of sleep. Sleep is one of the favorite things I do. I guess that's why I'm not looking like I'm a few years away from 50. But find your voice, find your greatness, change your time. Don't let time hold you back from living the best life. You deserve better. You deserve the best. And the best starts with you. Again, for those of you who are looking to be in a healthy relationship, remember to date privately, court consciously, and marry wisely. Wisely, because the more you know yourself, the more you attract healthy and purposeful relationships to yourself. You'll have an amazing weekend. Enjoy the rest of it. And if I don't touch base before next week, have a great week. But I'll try popping again during the week. Hopefully my schedule won't be too crazy. Have a good night, everyone in the U.S. Talk to you soon. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.